Traders Corner was proudly brought to you by IG. Visit igmarkets.co.za to open a trading account today.
Welcome back. You're watching Traders Corner, and as always, I'm joined by Garth McKenzie, the founder and editor of Traders Corner. Garth, welcome.
Hi, Julieta.
Garth, let's start off with last week's trade, which was a rather daring short on the top 40, but I suspect it did not pan out the way you wanted it to.
No, unfortunately it didn't. So I'll show you the chart of what I was seeing there at the time and why I thought it looked like a reasonable short at that stage. But it didn't work out. So what we've got on the screen at the moment is a 1-hour chart of the top 40 future. This is the September 2013 top 40 futures contract that we're talking about here. And each one of these plottings on the graph represents 1 hour of trade. So this chart goes back to the 24th of June, where we had the low in the market. And since then, we had been rallying quite nicely. Now, what I saw at this stage was that we had a nice steady upward trend that had been in place throughout the whole of July. And then we broke down below that rising trend. Also on a bigger time frame chart, which I don't have here, but on a bigger time frame chart, we were looking at the possibility of the right shoulder of a head and shoulders pattern beginning to form. And this break lower kind of gave me more confidence that that might be starting to happen. And then we went up and retested the underside of that uptrend and began to fall again. So what I did in the end was I went short of one of these September futures at 36,350 with a stop loss at 36,850. Now remember that every point on this index represents 10 Rand on a futures contract. So I had a stop loss which was 500 points away. And unfortunately that stop loss did get hit, and we ended up having to close that trade out at 36,850. And that resulted in a loss after transaction costs of 5,034 Rand, including the costs, which is unfortunate. But the market has subsequently gone higher. And what I possibly see forming up here in the top right corner now might be a little bull flag type of pattern. So we'll see which way it goes. But bottom line, I got this trade wrong. We got stopped out. We lost 5,000 Rand and a bit. Not the end of the world.
No, and exactly.
Don't look so disappointed. There's good news coming still.
Thank goodness for that. Especially when you said you lost 50,000 Rand. I had a mini heart attack on my desk. Garth, but obviously the other trades that you've had recently in the portfolio have been working out very nicely. So should we start with Sasol, which you must have been very chuffed about what panned out there? Very, very, very chuffed.
This trade has worked perfectly for us. So what we had here initially was we saw that there was this nice steady upward trend which went back to the April lows on this stock. And it had been consolidating throughout June. You could see that nice steady consolidation there and that pull back to the uptrend over there. Now, at that stage, I decided to buy off that uptrend. Bought at 425 Rand with a stop loss at 408 Rand. We then saw the stock breaking out through this area of overhead resistance, which was quite bullish. And what I took then was I looked and saw almost an inverse head and shoulders pattern over there. And you typically take the height of that pattern and then you project it up to get your target. And that, in this instance, it gave us a target of 475 Rand. And it wasn't just the technicals that I was looking at here. It was also the fact that from a fundamental perspective, I felt that the analysts out there all had this stock a bit wrong, in the sense that they all had a hold recommendation. None of them were particularly bullish on it. And I just thought, with the Rand having been as weak as it has throughout this year, surely Sasol is likely to surprise on the upside. I mean, the consensus earnings forecast for Sasol were for the earnings to the HEPS to be up 9% only. Anyway, we got a trading update out of the company late last week, and it came out as I sort of suspected might happen. They said that earnings will now be up between 20 and 30%.
Yeah,
so much higher than what the consensus analysts' forecasts were. And obviously then you see the share price begin to rally quite aggressively on the back of that news. And it got to our target. It got to actually just above 480 Rand. But our target level all along was 475 Rand. So I decided to stick to our strategy here. I banked that profit at 475. My intention all along would be to look to sell it into any good news, either on a trading update or into the results.
Yeah.
We got that. So I've stuck to the strategy here, banked it at 475 Rand, and we've made 17,290 Rand profit on this trade.
Lovely. Garth, I suppose would you have been tempted to maybe, if it weren't for the portfolio, would you be tempted to have stuck in there as a longer term trader, or maybe waiting for the results to come out, maybe there would be more good news in the results, a bit more detail, around where the increases in earnings have come from?
Yeah, it's possible. Look, I certainly still think that on a medium to longer term basis, this still looks excellent. And you've probably still find that this share's still got legs to 500 Rand and north of 500 Rand even. Yeah. So I think if you've got more patience and you're willing to wait, then stick tight with this and remain long. But for the purposes of this show, being a short-term trading show, I had a target in place. And my view was to stick to that strategy, which we've done.
Yeah, and it's quite nice that, it took just under about a month for it to pan out, but it's nice when a trade kind of starts doing what you want it to as you enter into it. So
that's it. What I typically find is that the best trades normally work very quickly. If you do a trade and it hasn't started to work within a couple of days, sometimes you might find that maybe it's not right and maybe it's not going to work. If you do a trade and it starts to work almost immediately, then often you're onto a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, what about the pairs trade? How has that been going? Because Vodacom hasn't been falling, and you had shorted the stock and gone long on MTN. So how is that actually working out?
Well, it's actually working out fine for us. And I know that what you're saying it might be confusing because the price of Vodacom's gone up and we've been short of Vodacom. Therefore, we must be losing money on the Vodacom leg of the trade, which we are. However, MTN has gone up by relatively more than what Vodacom has gone up. So remember, we are long of MTN and we're short of Vodacom. And all we're looking at here is for the relative of the two to actually start declining. So let me explain it using this chart. Basically what we've got on the screen here is a relative chart of Vodacom divided, Vodacom divided by MTN, effectively. The numbers on the screen that on the right and left here that you can't really see are 0.65 over there and so on. Basically, it's a ratio. So what we did was we shorted Vodacom at 113 Rand and 25 cents, and we bought MTN at 175 Rand and 30 cents. And that's what your pairs trade is. You're really just pairing the two stocks off against each other. You're betting that the one is going to outperform the other. And the fact that this relative chart shows a downward trend basically implies that over the medium term, you've got a situation where Vodacom is underperforming MTN. And my feeling was that this trend of Vodacom underperforming MTN was probably likely to continue. And when this relative chart got up to an area of resistance over here, that's when I decided to put this pairs trade on. And that was at an area there of around about 0.65. Now what we did is we sold the spread at 0.6463, and you get that by dividing the price of Vodacom by the price of MTN when we did that trade. My stop loss is 0.68, which implies that it would have to go above this pivot point over here. And my target for this trade is at 0.59, which is down around here somewhere. So we're around about halfway towards the profit objective that I have for this trade. So we are up on this trade. We're actually making about 6,000 Rand on it at the moment. And I'm happy to stick with it for the time being.
I suppose, someone watching the show might say, isn't this all rather a little bit complicated? Why don't you just go long MTN and not actually buy Vodacom? Yeah. Then, of course, it wouldn't be a pairs trade. But, is that not something to consider, that you don't actually have to actively short? Because that also incurs costs when you do that.
It does. It does incur costs. I think it depends on the strategy that you're trying to employ. If you'd wanted to just go outright long of MTN, that's fine. You could certainly have done that. And it would have probably yielded a better result in actual fact. But this was a pairs trade. We do this for a number of reasons. One of the reasons you might do a pairs trade is because it actually takes the market risk out. Because you effectively got two shares paired off against each other. If we came in tomorrow morning and there was a market crash, you'd be okay in a trade like this because you've got a short leg hedging out your long. Yeah. So all you're doing is you're playing the relative of the two against each other. It's a particular type of strategy. It's something that the hedge funds use quite often. And I did it on this show because it's something we hadn't done before. And it's quite interesting from an educational perspective to show the viewers how it works and how you affect one of these pairs trades.
Well, at least, as you say, the MTN side of the leg of the trade is doing okay. So you're in the money there.
That's it.
And Garth, what about, actually for the portfolio, there are quite a lot of open trades. The last one being Grindrod. I imagine that's also chugging along very nicely indeed.
It is chugging along nicely. So we've got the chart of that on the screen at the moment. And what I'd identified here a few weeks back was an ascending triangle pattern. You can see the top of this triangle through about 21 Rand 50 there, which is a big flat overhead resistance. And then you've got the rising lows here, which imply that the buyers are generally stronger than the sellers. And what I felt was going to happen here was that we would see a break to the top side of this ascending triangle. And what you would generally do is you take the height of that triangle pattern at its broadest point, and then you project it up to get a target, which in this case is 24 Rand 50. Now, based on that, I decided to go long of 4,300 CFDs at 21 Rand, and I set a stop loss at 19 Rand 50. Now, it's all working out fairly well. You can see we did get the breakout through 21.50 over there, and the stock's been climbing nicely. It rises, consolidates, rises, consolidates. At the moment, we're in a nice consolidation phase at the moment. And my sense here is that this might be a little bit similar to our Sasol trade, where we're leading up to results. We're going to be getting news soon. A lot of the consensus earnings figures for Grindrod actually are expecting earnings to be pretty much flat for the year to date.
In which case you might not get an earnings forecast because they only have to, if there's a difference of what, 20%?
Yeah, up or down by 20% or more is when when you're compelled to put out a trading statement. Now, Grindrod hasn't put out a trading statement yet. And if you go back in years past, normally they would have put it out in mid-July, some sort of time. So the fact that they haven't given us a trading statement yet makes me think that we're not going to get one, and that the earnings will probably be positive, but not more than 20% up. The thing is, though, is that the consensus forecasts for Grindrod are that they're expecting the earnings to actually be flat this year. And that I find hard to believe. Also, given that the Rand has been weaker. This is a company that's also relatively sensitive to the movements in the Rand. So my sense is that, again, you might find that when the results come along, and they're due to report results on the 2nd of September, when those results come along, you might find that they actually do surprise the market slightly to the upside. And certainly that's what the share price is telling us. If you look at the trading action in the stock, it's bullish. There's a steady pattern of rising highs and rising lows there. To me, that's the pattern of a share price that's likely to surprise. The earnings probably will surprise the analysts on the upside. So I'm quite happy to stay long here. And any strength that we see in this share price leading up to those results, or maybe on the back of the results, I would then probably look to sell into that. So our target's 24.50. I'm happy to stay long for the time being, but I will be looking to bank the profit on this trade fairly soon. And I think there's news coming that'll probably be a catalyst to propel it higher.
Yeah, let's hope so. So Garth, and before we get to the state of the portfolio, no new trades this week?
No new trades this week. So we've still got just the trades open in Grindrod and in that pairs trade on MT and Vodacom. No new trades right now. But
Any
I'm
particular
obviously
reason behind that? Just nothing that jumps out at you and strikes you as compelling?
No, nothing that's really jumping out at me right now. And I'm happy with these positions that we do have. I mean, I'm obviously always on the lookout for opportunities. Sure. But nothing this week, and I'll keep looking. If I find something good, we'll talk about it next week.
I suppose the other thing is you don't, generally we don't have more than I think 3 or 4 open trades at any given time for the portfolio. I suppose then it kind of does stretch you a little bit thin.
That's right. So we've had, I mean, at one point we had 4 trades open on this portfolio. Now we've narrowed it down. We've got effectively only 2 trades open at the moment. So I suppose you can call this a little bit of a week of consolidation and housekeeping, tidying it up.
Well, I certainly hope you've been doing some of that. Garth, okay, so what does the portfolio look like? Very good.
It's looking excellent. So we've made 105,000 Rand profit for the year to date so far. We're sitting at just over 355,000 Rand. That's up 42% for the year to date. So I'm very, very pleased. And we had such a difficult start to the year. If you said to me in April or May that we would be up this much by August, I think it would have been hard to believe. But it just shows that with good discipline and good risk management, and then you string a couple of winners together, suddenly the things can come very right very quickly. And that's what's happened for us this year. So it's great to see. We've still got about 4 months of the show, 4.5 months of the show left for this year. So let's hope that the latter half of this year is going to continue to be strong for us.
Yeah, let's hope so. And it also plays into the point, never be overly gloomy about any one thing. And I was just thinking about Leon Kokinis on the Able results last night, although clearly Able have some problems. So Garth, just to wrap up with upcoming courses.
All right, so I've got one on this week, Thursday. It's an Understanding CFDs course. It's an evening course. It's 2 hours long. If anybody wants to attend, there's still space available. And then I've got one of my high probability trading courses coming up on the 17th of August. That's a full day course on a Saturday. So if you're interested in attending either of these, please email me, garth@traderscorner.co.za, and then I'll send you the details.
Okay, great. Garth, we'll leave it there and we'll see you next week.
Super.
Okay,
Thanks.
that's
Cheers.
Garth McKenzie. He's the founder and editor of Traders Corner.
Traders Corner was proudly brought to you by IG. Visit igmarkets.co.za to open a trading account today.